Yeah, I'm getting stronger.
So I'm excited to be able to partner with you. For real. I love this. I love this.
So we can get stronger.
Become aware of your thoughts. To be a fit individual, you have to become aware of what you're thinking on a daily basis.
It's so weird. It sounds
Right.
weird.
It sounds crazy, but
Makes me really happy to hear that. Keep strengthening. You're with us for StrongHome, where we are focused on strengthening the family unit. And guys, it's daddy time. Okay, so this entire month, we are celebrating our men, our loving fathers. And I don't know, because right now, I feel like this is a little, he already got his boxing gloves on for this one. Because for me, I think that Father's Day is a time that, yeah, we celebrate dads, but you guys got it good all year round. And you have a whole different perspective.
we have it good.
I think y'all got it good.
Okay.
Like, we got some, as moms, we got a whole lot going on every single day because we have all these different responsibilities and jobs smushed into one thing. Whereas, you know, you guys have the responsibility to provide and protect.
Well, I don't know about that nowadays with all these independent women
True.
that don't need men to do anything. So that's another conversation. But for Father's Day, my thought is that it's a different feeling for me because my biological father didn't raise me, right? So I consider my grandfather to be my father and my dad. And you said Father's and Daddy Day. Let me ask you a question. What is, in your mind, what's the difference between a dad and a father? Is there a difference?
Oh, I feel like the word daddy is more like intimate, a little bit more closer. Like, you wouldn't call dad or daddy to a person that you don't really know very well or who wasn't really around. And I think father is just like the biological DNA of the other person that created you or had a part to play.
Yeah. So Father's Day kind of is twofold. The fact that I'm a father, and then as I get older and more mature, I start to reflect back on like my grandfather who raised me. And I consider that to be my biological father and dad. That's the most loving relationship I ever had with, interaction with a man, right? So I would consider him to be my dad as well as he fathered me, right? Not biologically, but the things that when I think of what a father is, I got it from my grandfather before he passed away. So it's a little, I'm happy and sad. I'm happy to be a father, but then I start to look back and see like, man, did I really celebrate my grandfather the best? Did I really get to honor him? And we were talking before on another episode about heartfelt gifts versus monetary gifts and time and all that. And when I look back, I'm like, I genuinely loved him, but did I really give him heartfelt gifts on Father's Day? Or was it the typical buy him a tie, buy him some socks? Or did I get him things that he genuinely wanted? Your dad, on Father's Day, how did you celebrate your dad?
I don't freaking remember, to be real. I don't. I'm sorry. I was like, because he doesn't, live where I live now. So it's very different.
But growing up, when you were growing
up, I mean, I feel like we were very creative in my home. And I think that's where that whole concept of creativity and giving of yourself comes. We're very creative. So now it's more so of like, what do I get from my dad? And you Amazon it.
Right.
Now. But growing up, it was definitely a little bit more heartfelt. But I don't remember ever asking my dad, what do you want for Father's Day? And I definitely don't remember him ever telling me. And that's always been the thing for me, for any guy around me that is a father, you included. What is it exactly that you want for Father's Day? Because I know when we've had this conversation before, your whole stance was you literally used the word trash. You were like, fathers get trash on Father's Day. And you were mad about it. That's why I'm like, why are you being nice right now? Like, I don't understand. I don't think y'all get trash.
I think comparatively, and comparison is the thief of joy, right? But if you compare the energy on Mother's Day versus the energy on Father's Day, it's totally different, right? I believe, and we're gonna get back to fathers, but I believe mothers are celebrated and loved unconditionally throughout the year, but especially on Mother's Day. But when you go to Father's Day, men are judged on what they did throughout the year and the years, right? And then we get these plates with macaroni, smiling faces, and happy Father's Day. We get a card, right, which is great. But when you compare how mothers are treated on Mother's Day versus how fathers are treated on Father's Day, I don't think there's any comparison.
Could it possibly be? Okay, well, let me push over here so you don't start swinging. Could it possibly be that when you said it's comparative, could it possibly be that that's the amount of energy and effort that sometimes men do put into, comparing to mothers and Mother's Day? And what I mean by that is that there are, in my opinion, and I know this might just be stereotypical, so I'm going to just call it out right there and say that, but in my perspective is that there are a lot of women that are every single day show up for your kid. They are, no matter what, full-time moms. The dads have the weekends, or the dads have an alternate week or something like that. And so they're fathers, but they're part-time fathers. And we have a huge society of that.
Well, okay. There's a lot in that statement, right? When you say weekend fathers, so you have to break down fathers that are in the home versus couples that have separated, whether they were married or just in a relationship and had a kid, and they don't live together, may have never lived together, right? But they have a kid together, right? Then you have to look at, okay, what is the reason for them not living in the same household? Some of that has nothing to do with the guy. Sometimes it's
all of that might be true, but the point is that, because you were saying that, oh, mothers are, loved and respected and all this stuff throughout the entire year, and then the dads, they only get what they get on Father's Day, comparing or contingent upon what they did throughout the year.
Yeah.
So if a mom,
men, not every relationship, but historically, men have been judged by what they do, and it's conditional. Men are not typically loved unconditionally by their family, definitely not by society. So it's conditional. Are you a provider? You have to provide to be loved, right? And so there's that duality of, I need to provide, but then you want me in the home all the time. There's got to be some understanding that if dad is out working, and say the mom doesn't work, she's able to be at home and take care of the kids, that's great. But the dad is not going to be available for every baseball game, every soccer game, every after school event, whether it's a recital or whatever the case may be, because he may have to work.
Okay, we're talking about, like, I feel like, unfortunately, that typical standard of what you're talking about right now, with the father living in the house and there's two incomes coming in, and that's a little different, I feel like, than where society is right now. I feel like it's more common, I could be wrong, my statistics would be totally off, but from what I feel like I see, it's more of the mom is in the home taking care of the kids, and also trying to work, and that's where you're saying, like, most women are independent. Well, maybe because we kind of feel like we need to be.
Okay, so you're saying that there's a 2-income household, the mom works and the dad works, and then they come and share the responsibility.
No, that's what you're saying. I'm saying I don't see that often.
No, I'm not saying they share the responsibility. I'm saying my example was the mom is at home taking care of the kids and the dad works full time.
And I'm saying most of the time it's a broken home. Unfortunately, that's what I see a lot more.
Okay.
Where there's not 2 people living in the house at all. It's only one, and usually the mom gets the kids. So this is the thing. Okay, that's kind of a tangent because it's going off of, like, celebrating dads. If you're a dad, you're a dad, right? Mm-hmm. You created the child, or a father. If
right.
You're a father,
right,
you're a part of the child's life. For Father's Day, I think that the father should be acknowledged. I think that's important. When we're talking about a dad is a different conversation. Somebody who really puts that effort in and really shows up for their kid consistently and does all of those things without the excuse of timing and all this other stuff, but figures out how to make it there.
Why isn't it an excuse?
Because we don't get excuses. The women don't get excuses.
But it could be reality.
Mm-hmm.
So you just said the kid lives with the parent, the
mm-hmm.
mother, right? And the dad lives somewhere else, right? So depending on the distance of how far that is, it's great if they're in the same community. But if they're not in the same community and there's some distance, then there has to be some understanding that dad is not going to be here 5 days out of the week, right? They obviously there needs to be some type of schedule, but he may not be able to be there 5 days out of the week. And so the mom is not necessarily there 5 days out of the week, meaning you live together, but you're working too. So the kid is going to school, or kids are going to school, and then they come home. Sometimes there's no one there but the kid. It's great if they have a parent that's there. But if you're saying both parents are working and the kids live with the mom, and what do you mean it's an excuse?
Well, the excuse of saying that I can't show up as frequently or I can't be there as often. I'm just saying most of the time it's not 50-50. Most of the time it is not. Dad gets the child 50% of the time, the mom gets it 50% of the time, and that the equal amount of time in the home is spent with that child, because sometimes, you know, the mom might be working too much and so the child is home and they're just home by themselves, right? So and then that's the week that the mom has the kid. So I get all of that. All I'm saying is that I do think that there is a difference on maybe what you're talking about, where you're saying like, oh, the women, you know, you're acknowledged throughout the entire year, maybe because they could potentially be a little more present throughout the year, so it's acknowledged because you're consistently seeing that mother throughout the year.
I'm definitely not taking anything away about being present, but it seems like you're taking away from whatever the dad's job or career or business is that allows him to be able to fund his lifestyle and their lifestyle.
And that's suggesting that he is funding their lifestyle. So what about the people that have a baby daddy, right? And comes around every so often to see to see the child, pays minimal amount of child support, if even that at all, but he's still the dad, still the father, still has a something, you know, this child was still created by that father. So in that case, like, okay, you should be, in my opinion, you should be acknowledged. Happy Father's Day, I guess. You might not be around often, you know.
So is it the same for, I don't want to get off fathers, but is it the same? So if the mom had the baby, but the kid lives with the father, or the mom is absent and lives with the grandparents, because a lot of times there are a lot of single women that put the kids on their parent to raise. So should she not be celebrated but just acknowledged?
I'm not saying that either. I'm not that.
No, but you should be saying.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
You should be saying
I guess
that.
so. I just wasn't saying that because I was attempting to keep the spotlight on you as a father.
Okay.
But in my perspective, I do feel like, yes, it's important for every father to be acknowledged. I just don't know that I would want to put a whole lot of energy and effort and time and money or resources into making a big production of Father's Day for a father who's not completely present in the life of that child. That's what I'm saying.
I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement with that.
So aside from that, I also think another huge problem that I have with Father's Day, and I love that you get to have that moment to be celebrated. But when you said to me, Father's Day is trash if you really want to know, with all that attitude, Father's Day is trash if you really want to know, because we get trash gifts. We don't get acknowledged. And I'm sitting there, that's crazy. Okay. And what was my question to you? What did I ask you?
What do you want?
What do you want? And what did you tell me?
Right. And so I didn't tell you anything.
See? I still don't get an answer.
I didn't tell you anything.
Okay, what'd you say?
Because most men, it takes time to process what they want, right? We don't want diamond rings. We don't want extravagant dinners, right? We want respect and we want to be honored.
Great.
That can simply be something better than a macaroni plate with Happy Father's Day.
But now you just
or a pair of socks or a tie that doesn't match anything that I have.
I don't want macaroni, got it. I don't want a tie, got it. I don't want socks, got it. What you're giving me is I don't want.
Each man is different. Hold on, each man is different. I enjoy socks, right? So when I receive socks, I like getting socks as a gift. I even told our son to get me socks for Father's Day because I like it, right? He likes it as well. What I'm saying is that every man has a different thing that they like or enjoy. Just like you want men to be thoughtful and look at me and figure out what it is, take time to understand your dad a little different or your father a little different so that you can see, oh, buying my father a tool isn't really what he wants because he has a garage full of tools. Taking time to find out, talk to your dad.
Okay.
Right?
So I feel like the market for this commercialized holiday of Father's Day has set us up to fail. They have given us these opportunities because they want us to buy stuff, right? So we get on come time Father's Day, Instagram starts showing us all these different ads and TV and all this stuff of buy socks, get a bracelet, give them a hat, make like all these typical guys wear ties, get them a nice tie, right? Okay, so we seem to have limited options unless we're creative, a little more creative, or we pay a little bit more attention to our spouse or to our father. I want to challenge you and every other man out there, please, please, please open your mouth and share what it is you would want. But in order to do that, I think you actually have to sit back with yourself, like you just said, and process, what do I even want? So before the words come out of your mouth, what we get is trash. If you're not ready to say, here's what we want, we've been telling you this the whole time and y'all just don't do it.
But I think there are a lot of dads that say that. So there's nothing wrong with tools. There's nothing wrong with ties and socks. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that, as I said, the energy is totally different and moms are celebrated different than dads. And for the most part, maybe they should be, right? You carried the baby. I gave the seed, but you carried the baby, right? There's a different level of nurturing that goes in from a mom than from a dad. We have two different responsibilities when it comes to raising kids, right? So the dad is not all going to be lovey-dovey and pat them on the back when they skin their knee. Mom usually jumps and let me put a Band-Aid on it. Dad's like, get up, boy. Get up, girl, right? So there's a difference. So I understand that there's a mother's love is different than the father's love because there's a different bond. You carried the baby for 9 months plus to have that baby. We were part of it, but we weren't. There's just a different level of bond that you guys have. So we understand that. What I'm saying is that the respect, and that's more than anything for men, is acknowledging Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a present father, if you're doing your thing, whatever level that is, right? Understanding that because I'm not there every day doesn't mean I'm not there, right? Just because I'm not in the home doesn't mean I'm not present, right? There are a lot of things that fathers do that aren't visibly seen, right, on a day-to-day basis. But some of that is not necessarily the dad's fault. There needs to be a bridge that's built between couples when they separate, and there needs to be education on teaching men how to be fathers when they maybe haven't been taught. I didn't come up with a biological father. So I never saw that in my home, right? So it's on the job training for me every day. Every level that the kids get to is another level that I gotta grow up and understand them. So I think that there are a lot of, especially young men that are fathers, no one's ever educated them on what it is. As a mother, I believe that it's built into your DNA to nurture and to help develop a kid. We have to be taught. And there are obviously things that you have to be taught too, but some of those things are passed down differently through women than they are through men.
I just want to say that I think you guys need to be taught how to speak your mind, how to process through what you actually want and to sit with it. Because a lot of times you men, and I'm going to make it stereotypical right now, the men will not take the time to sit down, process through their own emotions, think about what it is that they actually want, and they will then be able to express that. Instead, what we get is a whole bunch of what y'all don't want, what you don't like, what doesn't make you happy, and not any solutions on how to actually fix or change anything, and you stay in the same position. And because you haven't learned how to, so when you're saying you need to learn and men need to be taught, I think the expression aspect, when we're talking about, this is just one little thing, but we're talking about Father's Day, and my question for you is, what do you want? And I don't know if you guys noticed, but we still sitting here talking for the next 5 minutes with no answer. Sometimes
the father just wants to be alone. He wants to have the pressure off of him that I don't have to do anything today.
Love it.
All I want to do is watch the game, or all I want to do is go to the golf course and hit a couple balls. All he wants to do is have some private time, maybe in his man cave. He may not want to do anything other than be in solitude, right? So you're right. A lot of times what we want, a lot of people can't take it because we talk direct and y'all want us to talk through our emotions. We think analytical. Right? I don't want anything, and that's good. Oh, what you doing? You keep asking me over and over and over again. I said, I don't want anything. I just want to be able to sleep right now. Can I just go to sleep for Father's Day? Right? And that be good enough? Right? If a dad just said, oh, I just want to go to dinner. That may be all he wants because he may be looking at, in not all cases, that wherever we go, it's coming out of his money. Right? So if it's something extravagant, then he's just paying for it for himself. Right? And he may just be like, it's great that you're taking me to dinner, but I don't want to spend $300 on dinner when there's a bill that's going to be due
And I'm going to have to
And I'm
work
gonna
hard
have
to pay
yeah,
for
exactly.
it. That's
So-
fair.
So
Okay.
there may need to be, not may, there definitely needs to be some communication. And for the most part, I'm just learning how to communicate on the level of what you need. I still got a lot of growing to do, because the way that I communicate with my buddies, the way that I communicated with my grandfather, the way that I communicate with men is totally different than the way that I need to communicate with you or any other woman,
I
right?
feel like, and I could be wrong because I don't know how you communicate with them, and I understand that communication is literally sending and receiving signals. I want to just say that I don't think that you learned, or your friends probably learned, how to effectively communicate, which does not start with your mouth.
It starts as a little kid.
It
right?
starts
But-
with you
but
understanding
you have to-
yourself.
right. But understanding yourself is also part of how society conditions young boys that turn into young men that turn into adult men, right? Is that at a certain point, you can't really speak your mind anymore because it's soft, because you're not appreciated, right? We've talked about this before in other podcasts: honesty, transparency, vulnerability. For a father to be fully vulnerable, that takes time to get to that place where he can be vulnerable to his wife, let alone to his kids. How many kids really look at their father when they get to a certain age and be like, oh, I thought you were my hero until I found out you're just a regular construction guy. And now I'm smarter than you. And now the dad gets disrespected on a daily because their kids are now 16, 17 years old and think they know everything. But they ain't supported themselves at all this time. So there's a difference between every day when a guy has to sacrifice, a man has to sacrifice his dreams, his reality is going to sometimes cause him to sacrifice the dreams that he has, because reality says you got to work this job, you got bills to pay, you got mouths to feed, right? And nobody really understands that. Guys, we don't have the type of circles like women do. You guys communicate on a different level with each other, right? We're not playing with Barbie dolls when we grow up. We got G.I. Joe, and that's war, that's guns, right? We've faced different things in growing up than you guys do. So when we start to get older and we're figuring out how to communicate, it's like, man, men don't have the same safe place, even with their wife. That takes years of understanding that this person is gonna love me unconditionally. Remember we talked about this before, that you cry like a baby, you sound like a baby, right? That if a guy comes home and said he had a bad day at work and something didn't go the way he wanted to go, I don't really feel like most guys have the safe place to truly be vulnerable. Some do, but truly be vulnerable with their wife and say they got disrespected or they got talked to in a certain way and their feelings got hurt.
Yeah.
Men we don't work through feelings, we work through thought. So when you hear a guy always talking about feeling, he's off, because we don't work in feelings, right? That's not our first instinctual thing, to go to our feelings. We do have them and we need to acknowledge them, but we have to be taught, and we have to have, and a lot of times, I didn't believe in this before, but I do believe that therapy is a great thing, right? If you have the right therapist or if you're in a safe place, right? And typically, most Black men, their therapy is only that time when they go to couples therapy at church before they get married. That's the only time they've ever had.
And that's why we don't always call it therapy. Like, we call it processing on purpose, because
counseling,
therapy
yeah.
has such a bad stigma
Mhm.
with it. But I do think that's important. When you're saying the whole concept of like not crying like a baby, it's kind of twofold, because part of it is when you say don't cry like a baby, the idea is that you don't want a man to be prissy. You don't want him to come home crying after every little thing because his little feelings got hurt every day, all the time. Like, yeah, kind of like, okay, I need you to be a little stronger because I'm the one with all this estrogen. I'm already the one that's kind of emotional sometimes. So I don't want you coming home like that the whole time. I understand when we had that conversation. My perspective on the crying like a baby concept was just simply saying that I don't think that men have learned to develop, and I guess that's on us women as moms to teach this, but that men have fully developed the vocabulary that is required for them to be able to sit with themselves and know what it is that they're dealing with. So the crying like a baby concept is, if you can actually think of a child, a baby, the child, when I thought of it like this, it changed my mind, and it helped me to really be able to be patient with you, with other men. It helped me to really be patient, because I took a perspective of, I'm going to recognize that you might not have the right words yet. because you have not learned to express yourself because no one has taught
And I
you this
disagree
yet.
with that.
I know you did.
Yeah.
But my perspective, and the reason I felt that way, is because if you think of a child, when a baby's uncomfortable and the baby's sitting in some crap, right? They don't know how to get themselves out of it. So they're just fussing and they're crying. And then I have to know.
It's not just on men. There are plenty of women that when you ask them a question, what do you want for eat? What do you want to eat? They can't tell you. Where would you like to go for dinner? They can't tell you.
No, okay.
They don't have the words to communicate. No, they don't.
About food is different. I'm talking about expressing your emotions.
How many men ask their girl or their wife or their significant other what they want to eat, and it's just like crickets?
Okay, guys, this is called deflection 101, just in case you haven't learned this. This is deflection 101. We are specifically talking about men right now and crying like a baby. And the idea and the concept of the fact that if a man, I'm just saying that if we're putting them next to each other, and I'm not calling men babies.
I think you're being disrespectful to men by saying what you're saying.
That they're crying like a baby?
Yeah, by even saying that women cry like babies,
mm-hmm.
right? But what I'm saying is I think it's disrespectful for you to say that to a man, that if you wanted him to be vulnerable, I don't think this is deflection.
Right, yes.
If you want him to be vulnerable, but then he opens up and becomes vulnerable to you, and then he gets belittled for it.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's why I said it's two different perspectives. Crying like a baby is very different. One part of that is saying that I'm not saying you should not cry because you're emotional. I'm saying every single day you coming home, because we were talking about if someone gets their feelings hurt and they come home, that's probably when the woman is like, oh my gosh, she's always crying like a baby. Like, why are you fussy? I was just saying that I learned something different when I connected it to an actual child. When I thought about a baby does not yet have the vocabulary developed enough to be able to express his or her thoughts. So if they're hungry and they need something, they're in need of something, they need to be nourished, they need to be cared for. They don't know how to go, hey mom, I just popped out the womb, but here's a couple of words I'm going to explain to you on what I would like. They just cry because that's all they know how to do. And then it's my job as the mom to go figure out what that is. And sometimes men do the same thing to us, where instead of you guys being like, man, I got myself into some crap, I don't know how to get out of it, y'all are fussy and you deflect, or you cry, or you whine, or you don't use your vocabulary
and some of
to learn to express yourself.
Some of the reason for that is, there are men that are emotionally intelligent and can articulate everything that they want. They didn't start that way. They had to develop that, right? It's like a muscle. They had to develop that emotional quotient to be able to articulate what they're feeling, translate it into words, and then be able to express that to their partner. There are guys that don't have that level of emotional intelligence. They have to be taught and trained, right? And so wherever they are in the process, so if you have a guy, whether you're dating or married to him, and his level isn't there, it's not that he doesn't know how to communicate. He doesn't know how to communicate on the level where he's sending and you're receiving the message, and you guys can effectively move forward. So his response, I'm generalizing it, his response may be, I need to process for a minute. A woman's response may be like, she wants the answer right now. He may need to think through it because he doesn't want to go off of his emotions. That's how I am. I don't want to typically go off of my emotions, because to me, going off my emotions is me showing that I'm less of a man. I want to think through and articulate what I want, right? And sometimes being a man, because I have so many other things going on, I forget it. And I have left you waiting for a response to something that you asked or a conversation that we had. But I'm on to the next, right? Not fair, but I genuinely processed it, came up with an answer myself, and I feel better, but I didn't come back to you. So I understand that, right? What I'm saying is that when, as little boys, it starts there. We're all dealing with fathers, dads, husbands, sons are dealing with trauma that is unresolved from childhood, right? And when you get into a relationship and it's unresolved, now it's going to come to the surface because that person that you're dealing with is a mirror. So on Father's Day, if a man hasn't been taught to express, hey son, or they have that type of relationship, hey, what do you want, Dad, for Father's Day? There are some fathers and sons that have that relationship. You know what, just give me a pair of socks, right? Or, you know what, babe, I want to go to my favorite restaurant, right? Or I've been saving up for this drill. I want this drill. There are dads that can express that easily. There are other dads that if they haven't been, because men are based off of what we do. We're judged off what we do, right? So let's say Father's Day is coming up. A lot of times the kids don't even know that the dad is down on himself because he feels like he hasn't met all the needs, right? And so he doesn't make 250,000, he doesn't make 500, he doesn't make $1 million a year. And he's breaking his back, whether that's coding or whether that's working construction and everything in between. A lot of times men feel inadequate because of some things that are going on in the home, but mostly what's going on internally with them because they haven't developed the level of emotional intelligence to be able to feel. We think more than we feel. Even though we have sadness and all the emotions that everybody else has, we've been taught to suppress them and not to deal with them. So when Father's Day is coming, you're like, man, I don't need anything. That's the typical response is, I don't need anything. And then over time, a guy inside could actually regret that or have frustration because he's like, man, I don't work 80 hours a week and all I got was a hug and a card that was handwritten, right? He should express that to you, but he may not always feel comfortable to do it because it sounds like he's whining, sounds like he's crying. And that's where the masculinity, understanding what masculinity really means, right? We haven't really been taught what masculinity is not born in you. You're born a male, but you have to learn how to be masculine. And that's why we have a lot of problems in society now, because a lot of boys that are effeminate or feminine weren't taught how to be masculine, right? It's not easy being masculine, right? It's much easier to be feminine, to go into your feminine than to stand up every day and stand on who you are as a man, to your wife, to your kids, and to the world, right? So it's much easier to say, I'm gonna go to my feminine side. You have to be taught masculinity. And if there was no one there to teach you, you're on the job training. And if you have a very independent wife or a very independent woman that challenges your masculinity all the time.
Why you say it like that?
Right, I'm saying that challenges your masculinity all the time. You don't feel like that at home. You're already in the streets fighting, right? Especially if you're Black. You're on defense all the time as a man. As a Black man in America, you're on defense. It's a privilege to be proactive and be able to play offense. In order to do that, most of the time, not all of the time, most of the time, you have to get to a financial level that allows you to buy your freedom, right? Because if you're in the rat race, you're nothing but a slave, right? And so if your wife makes more money than you, now that's a whole nother dynamic that if you don't communicate properly, you're being emasculated a lot of times in that space. I do not understand, and it's not just Black women, men in general and women in general, that a woman will do whatever her boss says, but barely do what her husband asks. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know how you can be to work on time every day at 8 a.m. But to make me a turkey sandwich is a problem, right? Or to do something for me is a problem. I don't understand it, right? I don't understand how we've gotten to the place where we're so independent. There's no interdependency, that you're so independent that you will allow another man to dictate your whole life. But the man that you sleep with and love and say you love, he can't tell you one thing. What's the sense in that? Why do I want to be celebrated on Father's Day when I can't even get you to do one thing for me without it being an issue?
Okay, so you set the example on the job training, right? What do you want for Father's Day as a man?
I think it's going to be different every year. But this year, what I would want genuinely is the most important thing for me, whether it's from you, from the kids, from family, is to know that whether I made a mistake or not, that I genuinely am working. It's not always my best, but I am genuinely working to progress our family, right? Especially as an entrepreneur. I'm out in the field every day looking for opportunities, trying to put things together, working on things. Some things are working, some things aren't, some things are better than others. But genuinely, yes, I want to have success for myself, but I genuinely want to have my family's life easier, right? So carrying the load. this is one of those relationships where it makes it easier to be an entrepreneur, right? I haven't always had that where I can have someone that could cover me, right? I always had to cover everybody, right? I may have had one or two relationships where I was in a position where somebody made millions of dollars a year, but that was very few and far between. I was usually rescuing people, right? And so in this relationship, I feel like I rescued you, but I also feel like you rescued me. So there's a different level of me being an entrepreneur that I get to have a little bit of level of comfort and confidence that you will figure it out, right? And you have. Since the moment I met you and before, you told me your history, and family and friends have told me your history, but you figure it out. So that gives me the leeway to go out and extend, and the vision that I have for our family and the vision that I have for myself and what I dream of, I really believe that, I can take a little more risk because I'm not in it by myself.
I love you for that. Thank you for saying that. Let's try this. I'm going to say this question. You're going to repeat the question and then continue, okay? So the
Okay.
question's going to be, what do you want for Father's Day? And you're going to say, what I want for Father's Day is, what do you want for Father's Day?
What I want for Father's Day is, see, that sounds weird. But
Oh my gosh, answer the question.
I'm going to answer it. Listen. What I want for Father's Day is to go to dinner, right? I would like to have some peaceful time. Father's Day is going to be on a Sunday. So I would like to be able to go to church, grab something to eat, and take a nap. Be able to rejuvenate, take a nap, and I want a pair of socks.
So you do want the socks.
Yeah, I have a huge sock fetish. So I want a pair of socks, right? And I really appreciate our daughter. She got me some amazing socks for Christmas. But so you can still give me another pair of socks. But so I love socks. So socks are cool. I'm a cool sock dad, right? So that would be it, right? And just to know that you acknowledge the work that I'm putting in.
Got it.
Right.
How would we acknowledge that? By saying it, by
You
a
say-
card, by
In a card.
do we go in a
Yep,
circle at dinner?
I want it to be in writing. It can be on a card or it could be on a little construction piece of paper,
Okay.
right?
But not, so you don't want us to speak it to you. You want to write
Well, you
this.
speak it all the time.
Okay.
So
Okay. I think I got some stuff. Good. Hopefully, guys, you can get that from your guy too.
my
I don't
recommendation
know
to
if
the
it's gonna
guy,
take you an hour and 30 minutes like it just took me, but I'm glad that you gave me an answer, because I promise you this has been something I've been asking over and over and over again. So we got some answers. So at this point, wives, moms, I'm gonna encourage you to ask the dad in your life.
or just pay some attention.
Okay.
Go
Or
ahead,
just pay some attention.
Finish.
You can pay attention, but how about we stop taking the responsibility off of the men for not having to communicate?
But hold on.
Okay.
A lot of guys, I got to say this one more time, we getting out of here. Look,
I think we're getting out of
a
here.
guy will say, a female will say, I don't want to tell you what I want. I want you to pay attention. I want you to do it. It takes away from it if I told you what I want and then you do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing.
Okay, go ahead.
It is a thing.
Okay,
It
go ahead.
is. It is absolutely a thing.
Pay attention to your dad. and your
Women,
father.
but I think because women, what we tend to do is we drop hints on purpose so that they can pick the hints up. So that's why
That's
we're
true. That's
asking.
true.
So drop me the hints, babe, and I
Okay.
will pick it up. That's the point.
Okay.
Guys, please do a good job at explaining. I am encouraging you to use your mouth, use your expression, use your words, use some vocabulary. Explain to the woman and the mom or the person in your life, what is it that you want for Father's Day? What is it? Is it socks? Is it a tie? Is it something totally different and outlandish? Whatever it is, ask for it. Use your words. Write it in a text, put it in an email, however you need to do it. And moms, right? Or the other part of that, let's do a really good job at paying attention, at listening, at hearing, and then actually taking action so that you guys can have a good Father's Day. Hope this is helpful. Keep strengthening. Oh my God.
Stronger.